Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're in the kitchen again today, and today we are going to make a pineapple nut coffee cake. So in order to make this, which is a lot of fun and delicious, you are going to need a coffee cake dough, okay? I'm going to link in the description to this coffee cake dough so that you can make it for yourself, because you will need one batch of this. You actually need half a batch, but making a half a batch of anything is kind of annoying. So we made one batch and we're only going to use half of it. So take your half of the dough. There we go. So you want 1/2 of dough. You want the rest of this bundled up, and you can either freeze it. You can make 2 coffee cakes if you like by doubling this recipe. You can use it for a different coffee cake. You can put it back in the fridge and use it tomorrow, or you can put it in the freezer for longer storage. So just push all the air out of it, roll it up, stick it in the fridge or freezer, or like I said, double this recipe and you can make 2 coffee cakes. But for this particular recipe, we're only going to need the one. So set that aside. Now we need to make a filling for this. All right, so just take this, bundle it up into a ball, squeeze the air out of it. Remember, it has been rising in the fridge for overnight or an entire day. So we're going to leave this. We're going to go over to the stove and we will make a filling for our coffee cake. All right, for our filling, we are going to need about 1/2 cup of cubed pineapple. You can either use it from a can or do it fresh. It doesn't matter. Either works. You're going to need about 1/4 cup of water, and you are going to need about 1/2 tablespoon of cornstarch. Get all that out of there. Then you're going to want to take this and mix that up. Okay? The cornstarch needs cold water in order to properly dissolve. If you try to add it to hot water, it'll clump. So once that looks like it's fairly mixed, add 1/8 cup of sugar, just regular sugar, and get that dissolved, okay? So you're gonna mix those ingredients. Now we need to reduce this a little bit. So we are going to put this on medium heat, okay? We're going to turn this on to medium heat. Don't go higher than that, it might scorch. So you're definitely gonna go on medium heat. And you are going to wait for it to get warm, okay? And then we are going to set a timer for 3 minutes. And you're going to keep this moving because you don't want this to end up burning. So just keep it moving a little bit. Okay, so what we want the sides of the pot to be quite warm. Then we'll set a 3-minute timer, and that will help reduce it, because you want to reduce this a little bit and really make a nice little filling, but you don't want all of this liquid gone. So keep an eye on your liquid. Make sure it doesn't completely get away from you. And yes, if this recipe is being made with canned pineapple, you're usually going to use 1/2 can. If you're doing a double recipe, you can use the full can. So we're just going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to speed up the video because it's going to take about 5 minutes. It'll take a couple minutes for this to warm up, and then 3 minutes of us stirring it fairly often. Doesn't have to be constant, but fairly often. It'll be about 3 minutes of us just stirring it at that medium heat so that we know that it will properly reduce. So I'm going to speed up the video starting here because you don't need to watch it in slow motion here. So let's speed up. All right, we don't need to heat that anymore. Let's turn our element off. So it should be starting to thicken, but not like crazy. So we're gonna take it off the heat, take it back over to our pastry mat, and we'll continue from there. All right, we're back over here where our dough is. We are going to take what is going to be our filling, and we're gonna add some raisins and some nuts. How much? Depends on how much you want, really. So you can decide I would do about a 1/4 cup of raisins. If you don't like raisins, leave them out, no harm in that. So about a 1/4 cup of raisins. Mix those in. And then we're going to take our nuts and do about a 1/4 cup of nuts. You can, of course, leave the nuts out if you don't like nuts, or if you simply don't want to use nuts. Don't want to use nuts this time? Leave them out. The nuts and the raisins are entirely optional. Give that a nice mix. Just like that. Looks really nice. Okay, that's going to be the filling of our coffee cake. Now we're just going to set that aside for a few minutes. It will cool as it sits. So, now we need our coffee cake dough and we need our cookie sheet, our baking sheet. And we need to press this dough into a rectangle. How big a rectangle? Obviously not longer than your cookie sheet and not wider than your cookie sheet. So you don't have to go the whole way, but thinner is a little bit better. So we're just going to start pressing this. And you can pick it up. Okay, no problem. Pick it up, play with it, stretch it out some more. However works for you. I like to do this by hand. You absolutely can use a rolling pin if you like. Okay, so we're just going to stretch this out. Okay. Stretch that out into a rectangle. And because there's absolutely no reason for you to watch me stretch dough, we will come back in a few minutes when this dough has been fully stretched. All right, our dough is stretched. Now you're going to pull your filling over here again. Now your filling should still be fairly warm. What you're going to do is take a tablespoon of butter, pop that in there. So your filling should be warm enough that this butter does melt, all right? Because you absolutely want that butter to melt. And here you should use butter, not margarine, just because you really want your filling to be nice and rich. Okay, so that butter will melt. All right, and you'll see I didn't decide to go all the way. You kind of want to judge the thickness of your dough, and remember it is going to rise. So if you like a thicker dough on your coffee cake, then you do a smaller dough. If you like it a little thinner, stretch it out more. There's no right or wrong here. Either way, this will be delicious and fun. As long as you like pineapples. If you don't like pineapples, you won't like this recipe. That's okay. Most of us like pineapple. So, double check your dough that it's nice and even and it sits nicely. Make sure your butter is fully melted. Now we are going to take that butter, not filling, not butter. Well, there's butter in it. And we're going to gently spread it down the center of our dough. Okay? Some more down here. Try to get it even. Try to make sure everything's kind of even and spread out properly. It's not always easy, but we'll try. Okay, get rid of that because that's done. So now what we need is we need something to slice dough with. I'm using this. It's actually for making pies, but I find it slices my dough nice and it fits in small spaces. So you're going to slice maybe an inch. Okay, maybe an inch. And you want to go close to your filling, but you don't want to touch your filling. Okay? So close to your filling, not touching your filling. And you want to do the same amount of strips on either side. And I'm not quite getting to the edge, but it's not really that big a deal. I'll just use a knife. So what you want to do is get the same amount of strips here, or at least roughly. So don't touch the filling, but get close. Because if you touch that filling, it's going to ooze. Because you do want something solid underneath. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our dough and we're going to take each arm, give it a stretch, and pull it at an angle. Then do the other side. Okay? Don't press or your filling is going to be very angry at you. So again, and Just kind of dab the pieces together so they don't retract, but you don't actually want to like press down on that filling. There we go. You don't want to press down on the filling or the filling's going to start oozing everywhere, and that's no fun for anyone. Okay, just be gentle. And yes, you want some gaps because this is going to rise. So it's okay if you have gaps. It's okay if you don't have gaps. There we go. So just keep crisscrossing them till you get to the bottom. Just like that. There we go. Remember, do give it a little bit of a doot-doot to kind of make it stick on there a little bit. Now here, you're going to start pulling straight. And I have an extra one on this side because I wasn't paying attention, so I'm just going to pull a second one. But now you're going to start pulling that way, just because you don't want to be pulling that way and push that filling out. So you don't do that until you're about here. There we go. There we go. Now we just don't want to touch it. Okay, you don't want to play with it. It's got to do its thing. You're going to set it aside to rise for about 40 to 60 minutes. Now it does rise faster than a standard coffee cake because this filling is warm. So it'll rise pretty quick. Just set it aside somewhere warm but not hot. So you can put it in your microwave, you can put it in your oven as long as your oven's not on, whatever works for you. But set it aside for 40 to 60 minutes until it's looking bready. So until it's about doubled in size, but not quite. We'll come back as soon as it's risen. All right, our coffee cake has risen nicely. It's looking good. It hasn't split apart, though sometimes it will split apart in the oven. Nothing you can do about that necessarily. Just be very gentle with it and give it kind of another extra pat. Hopefully, it won't split apart on you. So now we have to make our topping. You're going to start with a tablespoon of butter, and you're just going to smash that up. Add to that 1/8 cup of just regular sugar. Use a fork because you want this crumbly. Don't melt the butter. You want this crumbly. And then you're going to add a tablespoon of flour. And just keep doing that until you've got a crumbly mixture. That's what you want. You want your little chunks of butter to be covered in flour and sugar. There we go. Now what we want to do is make sure this is kind of broken up a little bit. And then we are just going to take it and we are going to put it on top of our topping. Okay? On top of our cake. Sorry, not our topping. We're putting our topping on. So it's going to look like this, and that's fine. Just smooth it off your fork and kind of gently place it around your dough. Now what you don't want to do is be smashing on your dough because it'll collapse your cake. So just kind of take pieces of it, kind of spread it a little bit, but don't put any pressure on your actual coffee cake because it'll collapse. So you just want pieces that can melt into everything and they'll taste delicious. Okay, just get some pieces on there. They will melt and they'll spread around on your pan, but that's not that big a deal because we can wash the liner. The buttery mixture just makes everything taste better. So we are going to preheat our oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are going to bake this for 25 minutes. Don't bake it longer than that because the pineapple will start to burn. So we'll bake it up and come back. And there you have it. A pineapple nut coffee cake that will delight everyone. This is perfect for any time of day. Have some with your coffee, some with your tea, or use it as a delicious dessert. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.